From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
It's all good.
Wake up! Welcome back, folks. New week, same show, same guys. Maybe a new outlook on life, though. I'm Aslan. Corey Clark is here as well. It's WarChant.com's Wake Up War Chant. Use the promo code WarChant30 for 30 free days of access to the Tribal Council and the Premium Recruiting Board and everything that we have to offer at WarChant.com. Corey, we're going to talk to some football players on Monday. I'm stoked. How are you?
I'm good, man, and I'm looking forward to that. I think the guy I'm looking forward to the most, Robert Cooper is one, because my man's just a house, and we're from the same area, grew up in the same county. Want to ask him about his experiences in Gwinnett County, and then my man Jaden Woodby. As we remember, Willie Taggart said he's the one that he thinks could be president someday. Right. Of all the guys on the team, I follow him on Twitter. He seems like a very socially conscious person, even as a young person. Very bright, obviously. Came all the way across the country as an independent kid, independent thinker. Really look forward to talking to him, seeing what he's all about.
Okay. All right.
Just throwing that out there. You didn't even ask, but I'm excited to talk to the guy.
Yeah, giving you all this extra credit and everything, man. Fantastic. Good on you. Good on you, Corey Clark. Man, you're louder than I am, which is probably a good thing. I'll probably just talk less. I can never get the audio levels fine on this thing. It's a moving target, as Leonard Hamilton likes to say. We're chasing a moving target. We'll talk about your journey to Atlanta to cover the basketball team. I stayed back on the ranch with Ira. We covered some baseball. The softball team apparently is like the 55 Yankees reincarnate, whatever the Bronx Bomb, whatever year that was. I don't know, but they're just hammering all over Pinellas County.
27 or 61.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Or 98 even, if that was a great Yankees team too. 55, the Dodgers won the World Series. They beat the Yankees for like the only time.
Are you serious?
The Brooklyn Dodgers, I mean.
You're such a savant, bro. Like you really? I'm checking that out right now.
Yeah, 55 Dodgers beat the Yankees, I think 4-3. Johnny Padres was the MVP of the series. My dad was a huge Brooklyn Dodgers fan.
Oh my God, he's right, everybody. He's right.
Hey, man. This ain't my first rodeo, buddy. Dude. This is all actually everybody. You should know this was all rehearsed about an hour ago.
It absolutely wasn't. Who was the Yankees manager?
Casey Stengel.
Yeah, that's kind of a layup. But anyhow, I'm still proud of you, man. Awesome, fantastic.
Yeah. I appreciate it, buddy. I always like positive reinforcement.
Yeah. All right. No more brain busters. So let's talk about the past before talking about the present, and then looking ahead to the future. How about that, Corey?
Okay.
A lot of hurt feelings out there on the internet coming across. A lot of hurt feelings. A lot of people angry at the brand. They feel the brand is becoming negative, too negative perhaps. This on the heels of Greg Fry being, I guess, relieved of his duties, the diplomatic way of saying he got fired on Friday after finishing out the string, completing his duties on the recruiting circuit, I guess you could say. But anywho, I thought you wrote a very well-reasoned, practical column. I think it was along the lines of the Bryles column, where you weren't necessarily advocating on behalf of good or evil either way, but just simply saying, the Bryles hire leaves you vulnerable to potential criticism. The way or the timing of Fry's firing is going to leave you open to potential criticism. However, that seems to have been interpreted as more attacks on Willie. I don't agree with that. I don't know if you want to maybe state your case. Not that you really have to, but you really
here's what I'll say. The next time Ira asks me to write a hiring column, he can go jump off a bridge. He can go jump off a pier and swim back to the shore, because it ain't happening. I'm tired of it, folks. Yeah. He's like, I think we should write something on it. I'm like, all right, well, let me write my opinion on it. And there you go. People are attacking War Chant and attacking me again because of my opinion. I wasn't even, I thought it was pragmatic. Like, look, you don't take over a program and after 1 year want to fire your offensive line coach. That's not the idea when you take over a program. He didn't hire Greg Fry last December to hopefully fire him 13 months later. That wasn't the plan. Things changed. The offense was a train wreck. The offensive line was the worst in the country. And if he had to bring in somebody to hire he had to hire somebody to come run his offense. Well, you had to make certain concessions. And one of those was, man, he wants to bring in his own offensive line guy. It's not fair to Greg Fry necessarily because I don't think anybody thinks it was Greg Fry's fault. Now, he didn't do a good job, obviously, with what he was left, but he was left with nothing. He was left with not great pieces, and he didn't do anything with those pieces. But I would think most of the Florida State fans that are realistic don't blame Greg Fry for how the offensive line looked in 2018, right?
I don't know. I don't even know who these people are anymore, Corey. I can't speak on behalf of anybody.
But most people, I would think, most rational people know that the reason the offensive line was bad in 2018 was because of Jimbo Fisher and the guy that coached the offensive line before Greg Fry. Greg Fry didn't all of a sudden forget how to coach once he got to Tallahassee from Michigan, and he was good at Indiana too. So, but Willie Taggart has to think about Willie Taggart. And Willie Taggart has to think about Florida State. To get Kendall Briles here, I assume he had to make some concessions. And so, Greg Fry's lost, kind of left twisted in the wind. Look, man, Greg Fry made $700,000 last year? $650. When are you, how many years is it going to take you and I to make that? I don't feel bad for a guy making $650,000 who replaced someone who was fired and will get a job when somebody else gets fired next year. It's just, look, the timing of it wasn't great. Why wait till February 15th? Why didn't this happen in December? Why didn't this happen when Briles was hired? And then the guy could have maybe gotten another job. He is I think another element other than Alonzo Hampton. Number one, Alonzo Hampton's different because it's special teams. You have enough good athletes at Florida State to put together a competent special teams unit. I don't think anybody could argue that. He underperformed woefully in his role. Greg Fry didn't have enough good pieces on the offensive line to put together a competent offensive line. And on top of that, he is a Florida State guy. He left a great job to come home to try to help build Florida State back again. And then after a year, because the offense was so bad, you have to hire another offensive coordinator, give him the keys and say, okay, who do you want as your offensive line coach? Sorry, Greg, you're out. Yeah. But that's the business. You know what I mean? I thought that was the essence of the column, is that's the business. It doesn't make Willie Taggart look like a great guy. I don't think Greg Fry would say great things about Willie Taggart. I assume Greg Fry thinks it was entirely unfair that he doesn't have a job right now after recruiting through 2 national signing days, that all of a sudden he's out of a job. Now, again, I don't think it was a blindsiding deal. I mean, if he reads War Chant at all, I think he had an idea of what was coming, but maybe he was led to, and I don't know, maybe he was led to believe that it would be a co-offensive coordinator position. The timing is off. Unless they announce Clements today, it's weird that this happened now. There's a lot of backstory to it too. But again, at the end of the day, you brought a guy down from Michigan. You gave him nothing to work with. Your offense was awful. And so you had to go hire a new offensive coordinator, and then you had to cut it to get the offensive coordinator. We assume he wanted to bring in his own guy, so you had to get rid of the guy that came down to Michigan for you. But it's the business. The dude makes $650,000 a year, and quite frankly, there you go, Shanna. Taggart had to change something. I don't blame him one iota. You know what I mean? I don't blame him at all. You got to fix this offense, man. Whatever it takes to get Kendall Briles. If Kendall Briles puts up 40 points a game next year, everything was worth it.
Oh,
even 33 points a game, yeah. Everything was worth it. I'm not saying that he should have kept Greg Fry. I'm just saying that it was solely a got to do what I got to do right now move for Willie Taggart.
Self-preservation.
100%. But do you blame him? No. It wasn't. I wasn't even being critical of the guy. He's got to win. And if he thinks that Kendall Briles is going to make him a winner, then you get Kendall Briles. And if Kendall Briles says, yeah, I'll come, but I need my man Randy with me, well, then sorry, Greg. I think remembering how Willie Taggart was when he left Oregon, I think he was genuinely upset at how after he left after 1 year. I do. I mean, he said that. He apologized. He said it didn't, he knows they were going to be upset. He apologized that he left after 1 year after recruiting all those kids. I think that genuinely pained him. And I think this genuinely pained him. I do, but I think at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do for yourself and for your program. And he wants to be at Florida State for 15 years, and he wants to win championships, and he thinks Kendall Briles is the best way to get that done. And you certainly wouldn't not hire him to keep Greg Fry. But, it's kind of that's the business, man. It's a tough business. You got to make tough choices.
Right. And obviously this all is against the backdrop of whatever is being done or has been done to make sure Randy Clemens comes on board. The whole buyout
Maybe they're getting
situation.
Trickett back.
Pardon?
Maybe they're getting Rick Trickett back.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that.
Jimmy Higgins?
I'm kidding. Bring back Jimmy Jam. But no, obviously the whole backdrop of them trying to wait this out with Houston, who's going to blink first, who's going to, is he going to get fired first? Is Florida State going to hire him away and have to foot some of the bill on the buyout? So that obviously affects a bit of the timing. And I think at a certain part of it, there's got to be a certain dynamic in play of, like, Willie's got to keep him because what if this doesn't work out? What if Houston doesn't go along with the plan? He needs an offensive line coach in place. What I will say, though, there's just this whole political expediency thing of being a fan where when guys are on your staff, you find lots of reasons to look on the bright side of things because you're a fan and that's how you operate. And then when they're gone, you just kind of start kicking them. Like, we don't need the guy anyway. He's a bum. There's a lot of that because, to your point, there are so many people that would, tell us, listen, it's not Willie's fault, about 2018 throughout the season, the struggles because he does not have an offensive line. And then people weren't even blaming Greg Fry. People were, to your point, again, there's nothing to work with. He's having to work with a lot of, underdeveloped physically, underdeveloped athletic guys. Maybe they don't have the attitude, the edge that he wants or needs. And that was the prevailing wisdom in October and November. And then now it's like, look what he did. Nobody got better at any point last year. So, who really cares? It's only because he's an alum or else no one would care about this. Well, it's like, man, 2 months ago, you folks were out here caping on his behalf as well, saying that it's not fair to criticize Willie for the offensive woes because he's got a tough offensive line and his offensive line coach has really got nothing to work with. That's the sort of stuff that makes me, that frustrates me because I guess whatever, we're negative, we're skeptical, that bothers folks. But at least, I'm trying to be, and this isn't because I'm trying to fit some sort of role on a podcast. I'm trying to be pretty consistent here with the way I'm feeling and talking about things. So I'm not going to sit here and all of a sudden just start, again, I wasn't very bothered by the firing. I think he probably did hope against hope that he was going to be able to stay on because this thing has dragged on so long. It didn't work out that way. But again, Willie Taggart can't worry about people's feelings at this point because he needs to win football games.
And that was kind of what you just said was the essence of my column. He can't worry about feelings.
But I don't know why, but people are feeling stuff about what they're reading these days that it's getting really sort of, I don't know, man. I don't even know how. I'm like, what happens if this team is 2-4 at some point next season? I don't even know what we can say without getting, I don't know, it's getting really fractured. It's getting really ugly out there. But I probably should unplug from social media, Corey, but I can't because I have to tweet stuff out and I find out news by going on social media. Like there are people that legitimately are conflating things about, we didn't feel bad about Alonzo Hampton, but we feel bad about Greg Fry. We are talking negatively about Willie Taggart, but for some reason are, a guy who had we're pointing out supposedly the fact that he had a losing record coming to Florida State, which nobody in the media ever really harped on. That was a fan sort of driven thing, but at the same time are cutting slack to David Coburn and what he's trying to do as the AD, although he is not athletically, he doesn't have any athletic director experience. Like there's a lot of like racial undertones that are happening to things that's like extremely uncomfortable right now to do this show in certain ways. There's somebody that tweeted something at us and I went and looked at his Twitter feed and he commented on a CBS Sports Line hot list item or hot seat thing about which coaches are on the hot seat and which ones aren't. And I didn't read the column, but I guess Scott Frost and Chip Kelly aren't on it. Willie Taggart is. In a lot of people's estimation, that's wrong. That's playing into racial biases. And I just don't know, like, what point can we agree to disagree that we don't maybe gauge things the same, but it's not on a racial basis? Like, Scott Frost literally took over a team that didn't win one single game, and I think within 2 years won 13 games in a season, went undefeated, took down as many ranked teams in one season as Willie Taggart had in 8 previous, and he went to Nebraska, a place that's been struggling for, I don't know, at least 5 years, and to their standard, 20 years. Chip Kelly, was a field goal of possession away from winning the national title, made the playoffs in the NFL, and took over another program that's kind of, middling, if you will, in UCLA. Like, UCLA is not USC. UCLA is not Texas. They haven't had really huge runs of success in football. So, people aren't going to say that Chip Kelly should be fired after year one. But with, what Taggart inherited, what this program has been, what his track record is, and how things looked in 2018, if you're going to create lists to get clickbait on stuff, for coaches being on the hot seat, Willie Taggart fits the bill. You don't think that's right? Cool. It's not like a rate. That's becoming the really awkward thing about trying to do this show is, at what point am I just going to just pretend that everything's all right? Everything's going to be great because I don't want to be called a racist anymore. Because at first it was kind of funny. Now it's getting really old. So
yeah, to be honest with you, I know what I am. I know who I am. I know I can point to, 35 columns that I wrote pre-September about Willie Taggart. All of them so effusive they would make some people want to vomit. They were so effusive with the praise. The dude went 5-7. That's all this is, man. He went 5-7. He it's the first losing season at Florida State in 4 decades. And he's having to make changes. And some of them aren't great. Look, man, you go on Twitter and search some former players and what they had to say about this, because this was one of their guys. I don't think that makes them racist for having a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. The guy has to win. He has to. We all know that. He has to. If he goes 9-3 next year, everything will be glowing again. That's just how it works. Right now, that's how this business works. I'm certainly not going to, I don't read my notifications typically. I certainly don't go on the message board a couple days after a column like this because I don't want to, I know how I'll react. And I've said it before. I'll try to defend it. I'll try to go back and forth with someone. It's just not worth my time. I had 1,000 words, 800 words to say what I wanted to say, which was essentially what you said. Willie Taggart ain't worried about hurting feelings. Right. That's what I meant by the line in the sand. Like that, firing a Florida State guy, a guy you brought in from Michigan after 1 year, when everybody agreed it really wasn't his fault, but you axed him anyway. When you axed him a day after Valentine's Day, 10 days after National Signing Day, he ain't worried, man. He could be the bad guy for a second if it means a good season next year and a good career at Florida State and a good tenure in national championships. Nobody 3 years from now will really be thinking about Greg Fry, sad to say, if Florida State's back to playing for championships again. If this is the means to an end and the ends are something great, you got to do what you got to do. Nobody's criticizing that at all. But it wasn't met with universal approval by some Florida State alums and by some Florida State players. And I think even the most ardent Willie Taggart supporters would be like, that's too bad. Then they go on with their day. They're not told by their boss to write 900 words on it. But I think that when they hear that, they're like, oh, that's too bad, man. You had to fire a guy that played on the national championship team in 93 and came from Michigan. I hope he lands on his feet. That's too bad, but do what you got to do, Willie. That's essentially what I wrote. Just 800 words worth. So, that it is what it is.
Well, and to the point of we're being accused of focusing on the negative or being too overly negative.
That's all there is to focus on. That's it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
The team went 5-7.
Yeah.
They didn't sign a quarterback for 2 classes in a row.
Yeah.
He just had to fire 2 guys that he hired in his first staff after a year. There's nothing but negative. What do you want us to write positively about? I'm going to write about Jaden Woodby, I hope, and I'm going to make that positive because that kid's awesome. But until they start playing games again, that's all you can do. So again, and I've said it before and I'll keep saying it for the next 8 months, 6 months, wherever we are. Everything gets better after Boise State if you win.
Correct.
That's everything gets better. But people acting like there should be a bunch of positivity in this fan base right now after what they saw. And again, it wasn't 5-7 when you lost 6 of those games by 2 points. 6 of those games were outright blowouts. And you got embarrassed by your 2 biggest not Miami, but Florida and Clemson straight up embarrassed you on your home field. There's not a lot to feel positive about. So I can write. I mean, I guess I could be one of those people that just writes sunshine, but I'm not that dude. You don't listen to me to give you just all the. I mean, I wouldn't think.
I've beat it out of them, everybody.
This show for just out and out sunshine. I think they want my real opinion, and my real opinion is that dude needs to win, and that's why he made that decision. That's why Greg Fry's not on the staff anymore. And that's why Alonzo Hampton's not on the staff anymore.
I meant to reply to somebody that said something about they said something about Corey hasn't been optimistic lately, and I want to be like, yeah, after 1 year, I've successfully beat it out of him onto Ira. We'll actually have Ira on the program probably tomorrow to discuss his 3-part series about the economics right now going on at Florida State, whether it's what College Town's producing, whether it's season ticket sales, and things of that nature. Already one of them's up on warchant.com, so check it out now. We'll have Ira again on the program to talk about that tomorrow. Here's spinning something positively, perhaps. Corey, I don't think it's really spinning it all that much. This is me being sincerely optimistic. We'll get to some of the sports that are, providing nothing but sincere optimism and hope and good feelings for Florida State fans. But if this all had happened on a much condensed timeline, if Walt Bell left for UMass and Kendall Browse and Randy Clements got high, if that all happened within, 20 days, just how much more different is the feeling about, maybe at that point we're not having to be as cynical or skeptical about things. I don't want to say negative, but if these things happen in a more timely, because ultimately at the end of the day, if we look at this thing macro, micro, he's bringing in Kendall Browse, which we have said from a football perspective, from X's and O's, it's probably the best possible hire you can make because it's the closest derivative of what Willie tried to run in 2018 and couldn't get done in the manner that he wanted to, in the manner that everyone expected to. So you bring in the Godfather, if you will, to a certain degree, or at least the Godfather's son. He's bringing in his own online coach. You bring Ron Dugans back. Again, we don't know how much of a difference a wide receivers coach really makes in the grand scheme of things, but just the optics of bringing a guy back home, all that kind of good stuff. And then you let Alonzo Hampton go, which I don't think anybody wanted to see him back at Florida State. Not because he's not a good human being, but just because his segment did not perform at a respectable, adequate level. Like, if all this would have happened in a short amount of time, we'd be talking about, wow, man, look at Willie, how focused. He knows what he wants. He identified the guys and he got it done, and the administration backed him on it. Fantastic. So, I think that can be true, too, and maybe we do lose sight of the fact that ultimately at the end of the day, he's made the right hires. Now, will they work out? We'll find out when the whole Boise State game works. But it's incredible, man. Everything that felt bad about 2018, if you did not like the offense, like Walt Bell is gone. David Kelly, we're assuming he'll probably be moved to some other role. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Although I like David Kelly. I don't have too much of a qualm with him. But offensive line coach is gone. Offensive coordinator is gone. They're being replaced by 2 guys that are seen at the top of their level. So there is reason to feel good about the direction of the offense. Now, if the defense would follow suit, that would be awesome. So maybe if we looked at things through that lens, people would be more excited about the
Well,
podcast.
yeah, and I guess, again, maybe I got to go back to I just have to read my stuff better. I don't know. My whole point with that column was not negative. I didn't sit there and say this was unfair, that Greg Fry should still be the coach at Florida State. Right. In fact, I said, I don't know if Ira took it out or not, but that he was basically asked to make a 5-star meal out of chili and jelly beans.
Correct.
And then
Hormel
chili, not just regular chili, because people make great chili all over the world. You could probably do something great with like one of those chili cook-offs and throw some jelly beans in there. Yeah. But he was expected to make a 5-course meal, a 5-star meal out of Hormel chili and jelly beans. Well, nobody could do that. But that didn't mean he had to take them and throw them into a burning trash can.
Yeah.
That's what my analogy was. He took a bad product and didn't make it any better. In fact, you could say made it worse because it was worse than the product than the 2017 offensive line. It was the worst maybe in the history of organized sports. So I wasn't sitting there saying it was unfair that Greg Fry got fired. I was saying that it shows how meaningful this is to Willie Taggart and how meaningful this is to the administration. They will do they were willing to do everything they had to get Kendall Briles to fix this offense and for Willie Taggart to try to fix this program. It's a positive. It's a net positive. There are some hurt feelings, of course. Not by me. I don't know Greg Fry. He wouldn't know me if I walked into his living room. Well, he might recognize me, but he might say, "What are you doing in my living room?" But we're not friends. I don't. And he'll be fine. He made more money this year than I've made in the last decade. We're all good. I really don't have a problem with what Willie Taggart did. The point was, my man is serious. He's not worried about anything. He's not worried about guys that he's not worried about making tough decisions.
He can't be, like you said.
If he thinks it's for the betterment of the program, he's not worried about he's not worried about making tough decisions. I think that's commendable. Now, again, you can make the argument you could have made better hires the first time around, but it was a shortened window that he had to make those hires. Now, and also you could say, well, the timing kind of sucks. And it does, man. It does. There's nothing really else to say about it. I mean, I don't know why Greg Fry, if they knew this was happening, maybe it could have been done in December. Or maybe they really did think that he was going to be able to work out where he could stay on staff, and it just didn't. And that came to fruition in the last few days. At any rate, Willie Taggart's got to do what's best for Florida State football. And Florida State administrators are giving him a lot of money and a lot of wiggle room to do what he thinks is best for Florida State football. After the guy that just left said that they would never pony up money for buyouts and hiring. Well, they're proving that's incorrect because they're letting my man do this. So, again, it's just bizarre that that was taken as a negative to what Willie Taggart is doing. It's just, I think it proves how bad last year was and how serious he is about getting this thing right. Because that's not easy, man. Imagine having that conversation. Because it was a year ago that I'm sure he went up to Ann Arbor or Greg Fry came down. They had a talk. That's a hard decision, man, to move from Ann Arbor to Tallahassee.
I feel like, I don't know, was he let go up there?
Oh, I don't think so. He was the co-offensive line coach. I don't think so. Maybe he was. Then I guess it wasn't that hard a decision. But at any rate, you hired him. He was a part of your plan. He was a part of your future.
Yeah,
and then after a year, you have to call him and say, "Sorry, man. It really." And I think that pains Willie Taggart. I don't think he's callous, and I don't think he's cold, and I don't think he's heartless. I think that was probably a really painful conversation, and he felt bad, just like he felt bad when he left Oregon after 11 months. But guess what, man? It's his life, and it's his program, and he's got to do what he thinks is best. And getting Kendall Briles on board was by far the biggest thing he could have accomplished this offseason. I guess I should have said that in the column too.
No, you're fine.
I know.
We should probably get off this because we should talk about some other stuff.
Sure.
But I just start to wonder about, again, these are the accusations, you will, of bias, and are you rooting for Willie to be unsuccessful and all this kind of nonsense?
You really think the people that listen to me talk about Willie Taggart and how much I want him to be Dabo and how much I hate the Sabanization of college sports? And all the time I talk about how much I like Willie Taggart as a person. He is a genuine person and a good person. And he's a human being that you can talk to. People would really think that I don't want this guy to succeed. I want everybody to be Willie Taggart. I want college football to be fun again.
Yeah, I think people on the message board say that other folks that because listen, there's all sorts of different stratification of fans. Like there are fans that just do nothing but just go in every thread and crap on Taggart, which is totally annoying, and they massage numbers in a stupid way to try to prove their point. It's like, listen, we all understand it didn't work out good. But it is what it is. At least he's going to get at least this year to figure things out. We'll see what happens after that. But to constantly try to come off the top rope and blow up any sort of argument, it's annoying. But there's also people that no matter what you say, seem to try to kind of bring it back to some sort of, well, you're doubting Willie, you're sowing seeds of resentment so that he doesn't become successful, and you're part of the problem. And they're sending that back to each other. our sort of role as the media is just creating this, the negativity that Willie talked about. I think a lot of fans think that the media is creating the negativity and keeps harping on it and focusing on it. But again, there just hasn't been a lot to really. If we had Kendall Browse, if they would put Kendall Browse on a podium and given us 10 minutes to ask him a few questions, I guarantee you there would have been a few good columns that come out of that, a few good stories. But it didn't happen that way, and that's fine. That's Florida State's prerogative. It could have gone a bad way too. Maybe people would try to make that into some sort of Baylor story. But yeah, it's been kind of limited in what we can do to intelligently. Intelligently, but just authentically write about things that are happening with the program at this point. I don't want to be disingenuous about stuff that we're saying, but I think that's happening. I don't think people think that you or I are rooting against him. Because we've said it, obviously, the better this program does, our jobs are that much better off. Our jobs are that much easier covering a winning program. Nobody wants to cover a 5-7 program. That stuff's annoying. But my thing is, if this thing works next year, if this thing works in 19, if this is 9-3, if this is 8-4 with a team that hangs 38 on Miami, maybe goes into the swamp and puts 30 on the Gators and beats them, there's people that are people like you, and then saying it to me, I'm setting things up to where Taggart's going to get no credit if it works out in 19. With Kendall Browse is going to get all the credit. What? How do I going to walk that line, Corey? It's rhetorical more than anything. How do you walk that line when a guy that's going to be brought in, given full autonomy, and things work out? How do I not say it's because of him? People it's going to be set up for that to be the case. Willie's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And I get it. I understand the systematic institutional things that are stacked against African American people, especially in an industry like coaching, man. What's the whole quote? A black man's got to do twice the work and only gets half the credit. I totally get the dynamics of that. And I'm not trying to factor into that. But are we going to be able to have conversations if Florida State's 5-1 at going into their bye week about, man, listen, this offense looks really good, and you really got to give Kendall Browse a props for it. You can say, well, props to Willie for making this happen, but I don't know. Ultimately, I'm going to probably focus on the guy who's calling the shots and making these things work. That's the reason why I wasn't that critical of Walt Bell. I just don't know, how much can I really sit here and poo-poo on Walt Bell if he's not calling plays? I guess, people would say that, well, obviously they didn't look prepared. They weren't lined up right. That's on him. I don't know. When you're in a glass case, 10 stories up in the air on a headset, I just don't know how much more of that is in your hands, especially when you're not calling the plays. But again,
right now we're all in a glass case of emotion.
We are.
We can't get out of it. I will say this though. I can't tell you who Clemson's offensive coordinator is.
Tony
is it Scott?
Tony Elliott? Tony Scott?
Tony Elliott,
Scott,
yeah, maybe. Yeah, Tony Elliott, maybe.
Yeah, Tony Elliott.
Or who was it before him, between him and Chad Morris? I don't know. But Dabo gets all the credit for making those hires.
Right.
Dabo gets all the credit for creating that culture. Yeah, if they go 9-3 next year and score 36 points a game, sure, Kendall Browse will get a much deserved credit. But if 4 years from now Florida State is riding high, that's Willie Taggart. Yeah. I don't know that Dabo survives without Brent Venables.
Yeah.
But he did it. They made the hire. They let him do it. And then with Brent Venables on one side of the ball, Dabo, they were going to be good on defense. And they had, they gave him all that money for the coordinators, and Dabo helped create that culture. That's certainly in Willie Taggart's purview as well. That could happen. Willie Taggart could be that guy at Florida State. I've said it for a year that I pray that he's that guy. He is a good person. He's a good human being and a good person to cover. And I really do root for him. That doesn't mean I can ignore. I can't, and I don't want to. We can get off this. I don't want to. I would never be someone that's disingenuous. I don't write things that I don't believe. I can't write just straight positivity about a team that went 5-7. I don't think that's what my job entails. I don't think that's not being true to who I am. I don't think that's what fans want to read. There's a small percentage that would like to read nothing but positive stuff. But I can't. I got to write what I got to write.
Let me get you off of it, but also naturally segue to it. How come we don't get credit for feeling good about the basketball team? Because we have not wavered at any point. And listen, some of it's tongue in cheek. Actually, I shouldn't speak for Corey. Corey's being authentic. He's being genuine about it. This is a really good basketball team, and I'm not forcing it. we're watching this team 7 in a row now, 7 ACC victories in a row, 7 wins in a row overall. I mean, say what you will for, golly, God bless Danny Manning. Get your resume ready. Josh Pastner might not be too far behind you either. But still, there's something to be said about Florida State beating teams that they're outmatching the way they have here in the last few weeks. Like, we don't get any credit for talking up the basketball team. Like, that's an awesome program right now. Things are rolling. We're not getting any of that. But, I'm not trying to say or play a violin, but genuinely, though, the basketball team, what happened in Atlanta, because I was at Hauser watching our undefeated baseball team get their season started off. David Nichols, so what? He shaved his head off, and now he's just shooting like lights out. How did that work?
Yeah, well, he didn't shave his head off. That would be too much.
Yeah,
he played well. Vassell played well. Again, I say it all the time. The guys, at the end of the game, they put the walk-ons in. And I actually took Stephanie to the game because I was up in Atlanta, and we were going out afterwards for a little Valentine's Day dinner. Ooh. So went to the game, sat in the Florida State section, and it was a whole section. There were at least 1,000 Florida State fans there, and watched the game. And she could not get over how excited the starters were when the walk-ons scored. She couldn't get over it. She's like, that is awesome. She almost got teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Like how excited they were for that kid hitting 2 technical free throws and for the other kid, Prieto, I think.
Yeah.
Duncan.
Harrison Prieto.
They went crazy. It was like a dunk contest. They were having to keep each other from running out on the court. And again, that's a testament to what Leonard and those coaches have built culture-wise, that they genuinely care so much about each other. And yeah, man, the basketball team is a good example because 3-4 years ago, I certainly wasn't writing how great Leonard Hamilton was. Let's say 5 years ago, after they'd missed the tournament for the Boris Bojanovsky maybe junior or senior year. Or when Beasley's one year, when they missed the tournament, they had a 4 or 5, 6 game losing streak. They lost at home to Georgia Tech with Bacon and Beasley and XRM on the floor. That's inexcusable, and I wrote as much. And now that they're good, that's just how it works. But I didn't say he should be fired. But I did say it's a really disappointment, and something's gone wrong with the program, and it needs to get back to this and that. And then, a year later, because I'm an idiot, I'll call myself out. I'll get my freezing cold takes exposed right here. After they lost to Xavier in the or Xavier. Is it Xavier?
Yes.
Not Xavier.
Correct. Xavier.
Again, but it's with an X and not a Z.
Yeah, because the whole thing is their logos and X
30 to Xavier in the second round, John Isaac's last game. I wrote essentially the Heather Dinich column from after the Northern Illinois game in the Orange Bowl. Like, this was it. This was Florida State's ceiling under Leonard Hamilton. You have the best team in your tenure, and you get bounced by 30 in the second round in a game in Florida. What in the world was this? Is this the best we can expect? Because they're not going to be any good next year. They're going to lose their 3 best players. Well, turns out Corey Clark doesn't always know what he's talking about. But yeah, they built up goodwill. There's a lot of positivity around that program, so we write a lot of positive things. It's amazing how that works. If the basketball team right now was 10-12 or 10-15 like Georgia, 1-10 in the SEC, by the way, Anthony, it's not too late, man.
Come on.
It probably is actually.
No, I don't want to. No, let's talk. I don't want to talk about the esoteric aspect of this core. I want to talk about the actual team. You talked about Vassell. Had a pretty good game. I thought he had a very, very good game. David Nichols shot the ball very well. There are just so many pieces they have, and again, crazy things happen in the tournament. Matchups dictate what happens to a certain degree. But like Chris Kumaji, double machine, 2 in a row after. If you would have told me that he never had a double, I would have been like, no way. He's got to at least have one at some point. But
even against George Washington, you would have thought he would have had one, or Winthrop.
Just the fact that they've just had. There's so many different pieces they have, and it's not like it'd be a panic move. Like if PJ Savoy or if MJ Walker's having a bad night and they decide to bring in David Nichols at the first media timeout, that's not a panic move. They're just so. If Kumaji's not feeling it for whatever reason, they bring in Cabangeli. That's obviously never going to be a panic move. But they can bring in so many different pieces and try to do different things. That I don't know, man. It's hard to imagine them running into big trouble in the first weekend. Now, again, with seed line they fall on, those kind of things. But no one's perfect out there. I mean, I watched that Tennessee-Kentucky game. That was a really high-energy, high-level game. But, like, I thought those teams on a neutral court against Florida State, like, I'm not scared. I'm not scared at all. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about the how we're going to frame talking about the basketball team. I just want to talk more about the fact that what they're doing, man. It's
that was just that was the segue into this about basketball, and right. I thought it was interesting to point out that I mean, we 3 or 4 years ago I wasn't writing a lot of positive about the basketball team, but I was writing a lot of positive about the football team.
Yeah, here we are.
That's how it works. But this particular basketball team, I looked it up. They've had 9 different leading scorers this year. Think about that. Just really think about that, folks. I know you hear me say that, and you're like, yeah, Corey, keep talking. Really think of there's only 12 scholarship guys on the team, on any college basketball team. I think it's only supposed to be 12. They've had 9 of them lead them in scoring. 9 of the 12. Yep. That's insanity. Man, most teams don't play 9 guys. And if they do, they're role players. Florida State is essentially all role players, and they all know their role well, but sometimes they get hot. And David Nichols led them in scoring one time. Kofor, Forrest, Mann, Vassell on Saturday. It's just really remarkable how deep and how productive the bench is. And that goes, and also that, I think on Saturday, Kofor led them in minutes with 26. I think Forrest played 21. Cabangeli might have played 20, 21. He was a plus 26, by the way, in his 20 minutes, which is incredible. He had like 8 points and 6 3. He didn't have a great game by his standards, but he was a plus 26 on the floor. And Georgia Tech's awful, by the way. That was I grew up in Atlanta. I actually grew up a Georgia Tech basketball fan. I loved watching them because they were fun to watch with Mark Price and Kenny Anderson and Dennis Scott and people like that.
Stephon Marbury.
Steph. It's really depressing to see what that program is right now, and I hope it gets back. It's a great arena.
Oh, yeah.
It's an incredible arena, and they put their students on the floor.
Oh, it's amazing.
Which is nuts. But it's probably the best arena in the ACC, man. It's really nice, and it's just such an awful product right now. I hope he can. Well, somebody can turn it around. But it's also crazy that Florida State has more guys, more production from Georgia players than Georgia Tech does.
Yeah.
Vassell, Kofor, MJ Walker are all guys that Georgia Tech would love to have on their team, but they're at Florida State. But yeah, man, you will see. It's all about matchups, and if you go 2 for 22 from 3, or if the other team hits 15 in that second game or the first game, you could lose. That's how life works in the NCAA. You just got to give yourself a chance by getting in the tournament. But 7 wins in a row in the ACC is. It's just a great run, and it's not you can kind of shrug off a win over at Georgia Tech and a win, but you don't play walk-ons on the road, and I think that's 3 straight road games that they've won by such convincing margins that they've gotten to play their walk-ons. This is a team that hadn't won more than 2 road games in the ACC in I think 4 or 5 years, 6 years maybe, and now they've won 3 in a row, all of them blowouts. It's just this is about as good a stretch, and we'll see again. I'm sure I'm jinxing it, and Clemson will beat them by 25 on Tuesday night. They're not going to go undefeated the rest of the way, but this is as good a stretch as a Florida State basketball team has played in the ACC in 6-7 years, and it's good to see. It's fun to see because they're a really likable bunch. They're a really fun team to root for. That was another thing that it wasn't even Stephanie. It was one of the writers. It was a AP writer after the game. I was talking to him. And he said, man, they're really likable. After interviewing Terrence Mann and Vassell and Kumaji, he said, man, they're a really likable bunch of guys. And they seem to really like each other, and they play hard. I'm like, yeah, man, it's a pretty remarkable group that he's put together. And that 18-strong stuff isn't just a motto. It's not just some sign they slap on an overhang as they walk out on the court. They really do kind of believe that and bleed that. Yeah. It's a fun team to cover, man. And I assume most Florida State fans really enjoy watching this team play.
Yeah, dude, I want to cover them the whole time, dude. I don't want to. I mean, you can stay here and cover the spring game, or Ira can, I guess. I want to be the whole run, man. I want to be the whole run.
We'll definitely all be there on Monday night when they're playing. I got to figure out who they're playing for the national championship.
Okay.
It could be Gonzaga again.
Ooh, bring it, Mark Few.
Yeah, you want some Mark Few? You don't want a piece of Leonard.
Weasley looking at punk.
Yeah, sure.
So while you were in Atlanta, I was in Tallahassee watching Mike Martin 11 in the Noles. Year 40. This is the year it's going to happen. I'm convinced of it. If you're not, they won game 1 11-0. It was a combined no-hitter. They swept the series from the Maine Black Bears. Your boy Elijah Cabell lived up to the billing, Corey. Man, the ball just when it hits the barrel, it goes.
It's pretty remarkable what happens when he barrels it up, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. I saw a highlight of the home run he hit on Saturday, which I think they measured at 443 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, that ball. It's an 0-2 pitch, by the way. And come on, pitcher, you can't throw that right down the middle 0-2. But anyway, I mean, he puts that thing to center field, and I'm telling you, Buster Posey never hit a ball further than that. Yeah. And this kid's a freshman. I'm not saying he's Buster Posey. Nobody is. And we'll see what he does when he faces real pitching. But when he gets a hold of it, he has some tools that are just not normal. And he can run, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's got all the tools you would think. But the bat speed and the power, the natural power that this kid has is something that I don't know that they've had. I mean, especially as a freshman, like Buster was great as a junior, but I think his freshman year, he hit like 6 home runs. His sophomore year, he hit 3. This kid, the ball just explodes off his bat, and the other freshmen were as good or better.
Yeah. Nander DeSadas just looks smooth. I mean, he
does, man. He
natural
does.
Shortstop, just fluid, crisp. He had a good day a good weekend at the Dish. I think I had him at 5 for 11. I think he had 5 RBIs. And then how about Robbie Martin in right field? That kid had, I've gone ahead and trademarked him, calling him Ribby Martin instead of Robbie Martin. 9 RBIs on the weekend, man. Cranking it.
Yeah, I know. That's incredible. I mean,
5 in game 1,
again,
then he had 3 on Sunday. And like I said in a little video wrap that we did, you can only get so much, obviously, out of Maine. We'll see what happens when they have to play, the ACC slate. I mean, let me see here. When they're going to have to play NC State, obviously, when they have to play Louisville. Wake, they only play Duke, though, so they lucked out in that one. But, I mean, the fact that
good?
they no-hit and hung 11 runs day 1. Day 2, Saturday, they had a doubleheader, throttled Maine in the first game, won the second one in walk-off fashion, had to come back, obviously. And then they come to the ballpark on Sunday, and, it's a sleepy Sunday game. It's like, they're up 2-0 for most of the game, then it becomes 2-1, then they erupt in the 7th inning for, I think, 7 runs. And they put their foot on the gas and show that they're not going to be content. I mean, as much as you can feel good about a season-opening series, I mean, they checked off all those boxes. And the pitching looked really good, too, man. Like, I don't know if it's going to work out for Austin Pollock. It was one game to be the number 3 guy. Shane Drohan, I thought, had a pretty good Sunday despite struggling early. But Van Eck and Parrish is still Drew Parrish. And, dude, Tyler Ahern, I know that Chase Haney is kind of the guy they want to be the closer. Dude, Tyler Ahern, for being like a wiry guy, he threw one pitch that hit 101 on the gun on the board at Hauser. It wasn't 101,
wow, really?
But still, it was probably high 90s, obviously. So, like, he's got the velocity. There's a lot of good pieces, man. I feel good about it, man. I'll probably, again, the Lady Noles are rolling on the diamond. They're defending the national title. Probably hang out in Oklahoma City and then go to Omaha from there, man. 400-something miles, somebody tweeted at us and let us know. So we'll set up our Midwest shop here in 3 or 4 months and get after it.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see a lot of it, obviously, because I was in Atlanta. But the one thing that stood out to me, because you're supposed to beat Maine, at least 3 of the 4, if not all 4, and you're supposed to overpower them a little bit with your pitching. But 1 error in 4 games.
Good point.
That's a good sign, man. That's a good sign because they're going to be able to pitch. They got some pitching, and Mike Martin Jr. is going to put up an offense that scores runs because it just happens. He's like realistically, he's like the Kendall Briles of college baseball offensive coaches. No matter no matter who he has in that lineup, they always walk a ton and score a ton of runs. That's just what they do. That won't be any different this year. So if you can pitch and play defense, man, you got a chance for something. And 1 error, especially when you have, you have some newcomers over there. You have some newcomers. You have a freshman shortstop.
Yeah.
Mendoza's had his ups and downs as a fielder. Salvatore's playing a different position. So there's some question marks, and 4 games don't answer it by any means. That's a small sample size, especially against not a great team. But 1 error is a really good sign. And I just think Those three freshmen in particular that we mentioned in the lineup, plus the catcher's good too. But
Matthew
those three
Nelson's
guys,
good. Yeah, I mean, dude, Matthew Nelson's not going to hit like Cal Raleigh, but he might be less of a, I don't want to say liability. I think he's going to be stronger as an actual defensive catcher than Cal was.
Yeah, no, Cal struggled a little bit those last about year and a half. I know he was hurt as a sophomore a lot. He had a really, I don't even think it was his hand or his wrist or something. There was something going on there that he was playing through, and he was better last year defensively. But yeah, man, again, being strong behind the plate, up the middle, walk, score runs, pitch and play defense. That's a nice recipe. And yeah, you mentioned the softball team. Good grief, man! It wasn't just that it's not just that they're still undefeated. I mean, they beat 3 top 8 teams. Before top 20 teams this weekend.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, I think, is like number 3 in the country. LSU is like number 6. And then they beat Tennessee on Sunday night, and they beat them, 9-1, 7-4, 5-2. They had a 10-5 win. They had a 3-1 win. They've had a 10-0 win. And this is all they've just lost the best hitter in school history. It's really remarkable with that. You want to talk about a staff? Holy moly! They just continually produce really good softball teams and incredible lineups. They all just mash the ball.
This is according to T. Carnell on the Tribal Council. Softball 6-0, the only undefeated team in the 16-team tournament. Beat 3 top 10 teams and hit 15 dingers. Is that good?
In 6 games, right?
Yeah. Is that good?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not. They're facing some of the best pitchers in the country. It's not like they're going up against UTEP, and they're just hitting bombs all over the place. It's obviously Lonnie has done some really nice work there, and they lost the best player in school history, maybe the best, literally one of the best athletes in school history, and Jessica Warren. And so far, you're obviously going to miss her, but man, they haven't missed a beat without her. They just look apparently loaded up and down the lineup again.
Yeah. Let's stay on brand and let's land this plane on a negative note.
Let's do it. I'm tired of being positive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Clemson football game again, the 59-10.
So somebody commented about the fact that Wake Up War Chant really went down south with the negativity in October. And like, let me pull up the schedule. And I looked at the schedule, and for some reason, like that, I don't know, like the Clemson game didn't hurt me. It was so bad that it didn't hurt me. But then I looked down, like 59-10. I'm like, that means we lost by 49 points. That means we lost by 7 touchdowns. And I was like, oh, sorry about that. And a few weeks prior, we'd blown a 20-point lead to Miami, but whatever. But no, seriously, though, not a negative note, but just maybe something to keep an eye on. You were high on Reese Albert going into the season. Reese Albert had a really good weekend as well. So, Mendoza walked, I feel like 15 times, but Reese Albert went crashing into center field, I think in the first or second inning, and he came out the game. We asked 11 afterwards. He said that wasn't he came out of the game, but that wasn't the reason why. 11 said actually on one of his swings, apparently his shoulder popped out, but then popped right back in. And then he noticed that he was struggling to tuck his uniform in the dugout later on in the game, so he decided to shut him down. He didn't provide any sort of timetable, but fingers crossed, obviously, on that one because Reese Albert is going to be a big part of the recipe for Florida State this year if he's able to stay healthy. So hopefully that's nothing major. Hopefully he doesn't lose a lot of time.
Amen, brother. Amen.
And if you need the elixir, folks, for positivity, go to Tribal Council, warchant.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 if you're not a member. Read the thread that is titled Our Rise Back to Prominence. It's composed by Big Cleat 42. Read it. It'll make you feel better. I promise you. It'll make you feel good on this Monday as you get your week started. Corey, I will see you at Doak in a few hours, I guess, huh?
I can't wait, buddy. I can't wait to see you again.
All right. Have a great day if you want to, everybody.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.